Welcome to MTM Travel, where we are debating Mark's favorite low-cost carrier going into bankruptcy. Wall Street Journal reporting that they could be in bankruptcy soon. The Frontier merger that we talked about on previous shows has seemingly fallen through, and they are dealing with all of their debt. I blame you because had you not been buying the tickets at the airport all of this time, they would have enough money
True.
to stay in business.
Well, the funny thing is, I have to book a flight. I'm going to Singapore and Bangkok later this year, going into like over the new year and everything, and I still can't get a flight to JFK and home from JFK because it's insanely expensive. There's no good miles options. Everything's like 40 to 50K round trip for that short hour and a half, whatever flight that I can normally get for like $80 to get to New York. And the best option is Spirit. And I'm like, do I really want to risk my Singapore business class booking a Spirit flight, and then who knows? I know, bankruptcy, they'll probably run through it and all that. Like, I don't think it will be an issue, but you just never know.
Yeah, I mean, Spirit is selling off planes. That's already started. And it seems like Spirit is running out of options very quickly. They can't get people to, take it. There was rumors that they're looking to use their aircraft as leverage for new loans. The low-cost carrier model is really interesting because it started in Europe with Ryanair and it expanded to Asia. And those models have worked really well. Air Asia has done super well. And these are shorter flights, hour-long flights, hour and a half long flights from the UK to Europe or around Southeast Asia, stuff like that. But in the US, it became a little different because the low cost carriers are flying 5 and 6 hours, harder seats, less legroom. And the model never really caught on here as well as it did other places. They were never as successful. Spirit kind of changed with all their fare buckets recently. Frontier the same. Is this really the death of the low cost carriers in the US, proving that maybe with our geography, that model just doesn't work?
It is strange that we've seen, Southwest for the first time in what, like 50 years hasn't been making money. They made money all those years. They used to be more of a low cost carrier. Now they're more like the big three and more of a full service carrier, but they're kind of like in that middle ground. But they've been struggling, so they're trying to shake things up and do things a bit differently. And Spirit and Frontier, Frontier doesn't seem to be as bad of a place, but this goes to management and controlling costs and everything like that. Like, we see some airlines like American that have huge debt loads and other airlines that are doing fairly well. But you would think if somebody's making buku bucks, money hand over fist over the last 3-4 years, they all should be, because, the fuel costs are all the same, plane costs are all the same. But Spirit does have lower end ticket costs, so they can't make up that gap, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's gotten more expensive to run the airlines, and it's interesting, but we are basically seeing that Allegiant, I guess, would be the one carrier still going full force with that model. There's some more, I guess, regional carriers that are doing the same, but I think this is a real issue. The real value for Spirit, if they do get broken up, it's not in the planes, even though their planes have, some of them have already been sold, others will get sold off. They're not the newest planes in the world, I'm sure. It depends, but their routes, their gates at all of these airports, they are a big airline, and that is very valuable. Think of places like Fort Lauderdale or Las Vegas or so many of the markets that they're in. And I think that that's where the value will happen. If this company gets broken up, those slots will be super valuable.
Yeah, it's just kind of crazy that the Frontier one JetBlue messed it up the first time around, and this time it just fell flat, and maybe the numbers just don't work. But the two pairing seems perfect, and then they could cut some costs with the overlap, reduce some routes, sell off some planes. I really thought that this time around it would go through, because it pretty much had to go through. If we lose Spirit, then Frontier is the only really big low cost carrier left, if you want to call them that. Allegiant is the next one there, but they don't go a lot of places compared to Spirit and Frontier. So do we see rates all together increase? Is that why I'm having this issue getting to New York? Because, they think Spirit's going to go under, and, I'm not going to go down and dip down and match that cost. So probably won't be good for us.
Yeah, it usually never is, and we'll see. We can blame JetBlue for this because Spirit and Frontier were merging a couple years ago, and then JetBlue came in with that crazy high bid, threw that merger off, and then their merger got blocked, and now, it really is what happened. I mean, JetBlue is all to blame. So if you want to blame anybody,
suck.
blame them. We can all
Don't care
agree
about your
on
mint.
that.
You ruined it.
So speaking of sucked, you said you wanted to talk about your American Airlines booking saga.
Man. Yeah.
So yeah, go for it.
I still don't have a resolution to this. At least let me check my email, because they said it might come via email. But yeah, so I book a flight. I don't see anything from American on here, but I book a flight, to California for a meetup that we're having. very simple, straightforward flight, $600, 650, something like that round trip. And just no good miles options at the time. And I wanted to get it locked in because I'm flying into Monterey, which is a smaller airport. So, cost probably only going to go up. But I had all these American Airlines gift cards to use from, the Bank of America premium card where you can get $300. And if you sign up for it in December, you can triple dip it the first year. So you get like $900 in gift cards. Well, we both did that. So we have a ton of gift cards. So I was like, all right, I'll just use these. Had a couple that had a little bit of money left, and then use 6 more to cover it. So you're allowed to use up to 8 on American Airlines. I'm like, okay, I use 8, and then there was like $20 left over to put on a credit card. So I do that. I'm like in the middle of a Zoom call with somebody. So I just hit like quick, like, yes, do it. And then I had to run get the kids. Come back, and I realized like, oh, I never got like a confirmation number. It's not in my American Airlines account. What the heck is going on? I checked, my credit card has been billed. My gift cards are zeroed. It definitely went through in some way, but I didn't get anything. So I get an executive platinum guy at the desk, which anytime they pick up, aren't you like super excited? Well, are you executive platinum? I don't even know.
No, I'm not anymore. I had it
Okay.
for years for free, but now I'm just a lowly person. But I've had mixed experiences with the executive platinum desk.
Well, they're usually better than what you get normally. So he picked up and he's like, executive platinum. I'm only platinum pro. And I'm like, okay, cool. And he's like, well, yeah, I don't know what the heck going on here. So he was able to look at like everything I searched that day and things I went to the booking screen on. He's like, well, I saw you did it at 133, but then you backed out because I was trying to use gift cards and some leftover funds I had from a flight that I dropped in price or whatever. He couldn't do the two. So I backed out, went back in. He's like, oh, and then I saw you went back in at like 150 or whatever it is. I'm like, well, that's kind of freaky that you can see all this stuff. But yeah, so he's like, okay, I found it. I recreated it. I sent it to ticketing. Here's the confirmation number. Hopefully it all works out. We'll see. I'm like, all right, okay. So, when they say that, you're like,
American Airlines, yeah. What is the whole thing where it has to go to some random ticketing person who then has like the ability to cancel it? It reminds me about a decade ago, I was booking an award. I was in India and I was trying to combine Qatar with, or Qatar Airlines with Etihad on the same award, which is not allowed. Fine. I mean, that's some weird rule that they don't have published anywhere. But I would call and they would put this itinerary on hold and then send it to ticketing, and then ticketing would just reject it but never say why. And so I had my ticket canceled 4 different times before an agent finally figured out it was because I was mixing these carriers. And yeah, it sucks that you can think that you have something and then it goes to the ticketing person who just can blow it all up.
Yeah, so I give it a couple days. I check, it still says ticket pending. I'm like, well, that's not good. And the guy, when he recreated it, he's like, oh, it dropped in price. I'm like, well, that's going to definitely mess stuff up because, it dropped to $50. I put like $20 on my credit card. So now it's going to be like, where do I refund it to? And so I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm like, just charge me the full price. Like, let's get this thing booked. So I call back on the weekend and they're like, oh, you got to call back after an hour and a half. I waited on hold for an hour and a half. She kept coming back. Oh, we're checking on this. We're checking on this. And from an hour to an hour and a half, she didn't come back. And I'm like, oh, she totally like hung up on me or something. And then it's like, oh, we'll give you a call back, like the recording. And then it hung up on me. And I'm like, what the hell? So then I call back and they're like, the new girl's like, yeah, I see there's a note in there that you have to call the gift card department on Monday. They're only open Monday through Friday. And I'm like, okay. So I sat there for 30 minutes and she couldn't just come back and tell me that. And while I'm on the phone with her, I get another call from American Airlines saying, you asked for a call back. I'm like, no, I didn't. Like, I don't know what you guys are doing while I was on hold, but she just wanted to push me off or what? So they're like, call back on Monday. Fine. Call back on Monday, ask for the gift card department. Person doesn't even know what the heck the gift card department is. So she calls, another hour later. She's like, oh, well, you have to call back in a couple of days. They're looking into it. They can't figure it out. Okay. So I call back today and the lady's like, it says that you need to talk to the gift card department. Did you do that? I'm like, I've been trying to, but nobody will send me there. Nobody knows what it is. I've given out these gift card numbers like 5 times. And nobody can tell me why they're zeroed out. I'd love to just cancel this and rebook it. So she finally said, I recreated this whole thing, applied the gift cards, but they were showing 0, but then somehow got it to magically work on this new booking because she said the old booking wouldn't work at all. And, hopefully you'll get an email in 3 hours. But if you don't hear anything by 5 p.m., call us back.
I think that it's a case of their technology is so old on the booking side and stuff that they
Yeah.
have to have magical elves go in there and anytime something weird like this happens and fix it, and then you have to get to the right magical elf. And I this is my biggest problem with call centers. I used to work in a call center and I watched people do this all the time, and I would get people on my line that this had happened to. Unless there is any sort of a follow up with employees at a call center when they dump people off their lines, like, in other words, if they don't ever get in trouble or there's no follow up to them doing it, they'll do it all the time. And so they'll just blindly transfer you or transfer you off somewhere else, not give you the information because they have metrics and they want to get you off their line. And it really stings. And the only way to fight back against that, and I've done this a couple times, is to ask for to be notated that agent did that and ask for it to be escalated. And then maybe they'll address it, maybe they won't. But it just stings. Be better. Like, I get it. You work in a call center, you're talking to hundreds of people, but be on the other side of this. Just think about your story, for example, and how nuts this is. Just absolutely
Yeah.
nuts. It shouldn't happen. And, then for them to make it worse by transferring you off because they don't want to do their job, it just stinks.
Yeah, and then I'm like, who do I talk to about compensation for this? Because I'm like 6 hours in now for a flight to California. It's not this like over the top round the world ticket. It's a simple cash booking to California. You took my money. You don't know where it went. And this is what's bad with big corporations. If this was like a regular smaller business or whatever, they'd be like, hey, we know the gift cards are drained. The money's in our account somewhere. Here's your ticket. Just get on the flight. Like, you're fine. So that's the problems you run into with this stuff. And yeah, once you find that person that has had this happen before or dealt with this, they'll know magically what button to push. It's just stupid that it gets to that point. So I have no faith that I'm going to get that email that it's been ticketed. I know I'm gonna have to call back. Nothing will be notated. I'll have to give them all the gift card numbers again, and we'll just do the same song and dance until I finally get lucky.
I think they could solve it one way, just based on this is specific to American Airlines. Make the ticketing person responsible for finishing the process. Because what happens is the ticketing person rejects it. They don't communicate with anybody else why it was rejected or anything when they could actually just fix it. But they don't do that, so it gets sent back. Nobody talks to each other. Yeah, it's rough, and there's not a good culture of customer service at American Airlines. I've said that before. I'll die on that hill. I'll fly them if I have to, but
It'll be a tiny hill.
Kind of sucks.
Nobody's fighting that.
So I guess I have an interesting story to tell. I wanted to talk about car leasing a little bit, not because we're going to go into great detail here, but there are a couple of resources people should be aware of. Car leasing can be incredibly lucrative if you understand how it works, understand the process. And some people just think it's naturally a bad deal. And a lot of times the things you see advertised, a $300 a month payment, but it'll have $8,000 down, all kinds of crazy stuff like that. But I was really, my eyes were really open in the Diamond Group. We did a special on car leasing, and one of the members is like a super crazy lease hacker. Mark, like, he's done hundreds of leases, and so like I've done a few, and I have a good understanding of it. But just to be talking with him, where he's just operating on this insane level,
is he like about renting? Is he like renting or using them for Turo or something? Like, what? Why are you doing all these leases?
No, I mean, he negotiates for family members, negotiates. Okay, gotcha, I might have exaggerated with 100, but he's done like just crazy amounts, and like just his whole negotiating style, how he negotiates, finds cars all over the country. But there are a couple of things. Lease Hacker is a good, I think, thing to kind of start looking for deals. Edmunds Forums has some good information. He wrote up a whole guide. It's in the Diamond Group. I can't share that publicly, but I do think more people in the hobby could be open their eyes up to it, because I think you're talking $50, $100 a month leases, stacking all kinds of offers. There's a lot of deals on EVs lately. So when you look at it, you're paying significantly less than if you were to buy a car, if you're looking at those deals. So while I'm talking about leasing, just wanted to open people's eyes to that. But about 6 months ago, I leased my Rivian. Now, with Rivian, it's a little different because you have to go through Rivian. You can't really shop things as much. They don't have dealers or anything. So I got a good deal because of some discounts, but it wasn't as good of some of the lease hackers, stuff like that. But pretty quickly after I got my lease, Rivian Financial Services is actually just Chase. So it's just a white label for Chase. So Rivian sells you the car. They do all the paperwork. Chase sends you the lease. Well, I bought the car around April 1st was supposed to be my first payment, and nothing ever happened. Never got anything from Rivian, never got anything from Chase. And, all of a sudden I start Googling stuff back in like May, and I saw other people had gotten the same issue. There was a paperwork issue and that it had gotten resolved. And what would you do in this scenario where you've leased something, you now know you owe money, and there's no record of my account with Chase. Like if I call Chase, they don't even have the account because Rivian never sent the paperwork. I'm driving the car. What would you do in
Yeah.
that scenario? It caused me so much anxiety.
Yeah, I mean, you're worried that there is a bill going to somebody, it's just not to you, and it's going to ruin your credit, and or do one day, the repo man show up and take the car back because you haven't made any pay. Yeah, I'd rather just have it settled. Like, it's fun to get something for free, but something like this at this level and with all the ramifications that could happen with it, I would definitely like be like, no, I have one. Like, let's get this thing lined up and get going. Maybe they don't go back and back charge you for the couple months you had it, but yeah, I would definitely want something in writing at that point.
After reading some of those Reddit threads, it appeared that for a brief period of time, the software was making mistakes on the contracts and Chase was rejecting them. And they had a week after I'd signed, they had asked me to sign a new contract. So that actually was fixing that problem. For some reason, it never had gotten there. And I had an email from the Rivian financial person. So I had emailed her and I had information from my guide, the person who sold me the car. I kept messaging them. And of course, Chase has no record of this. I could call Chase and they say, we don't have this account. We don't know who you are. We know nothing about this. So my strategy was to just put it in my calendar and then just to follow up with the financial person and the person at Rivian like once a month. Be like, I'm still waiting for this so that I could prove, because I was so paranoid that one day this 6 month past due thing would come up on my credit and I would owe all this money and, I would get late on my credit and I would have to go work to get that fixed. So I was just so paranoid that that could happen. So I figured I'll just start creating a paper trail because I don't want to dump dozens of hours of calling people and all of that. And I do have a resolution, which was quite interesting. But yeah, I just sort of decided a paper trail was going to be enough.
Yeah, you in cars, man. You never did write up or talk about, what was it, Carvana that you bought the one car from and it came all like scratched up or whatever?
It was Vroom. Yeah, it was a.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this was pandemic. This was a crazy thing because it was like maybe May or it was like June-ish of 2020. So before car prices went crazy, and in fact they were still dumping a bunch of rental cars, and so Vroom had these Volvo XC90s that sold brand new for $60,000. Like the MSRP was 60,000. It had like 8,000 miles on it and it was less than a year old. It got it for like 36,000, I want to say 35, 36. But when it got here, there was a couple scratches on the paint. And the way it is you just buy it online. They have pictures of everything. They deliver it to your house, super good and easy. But you could clearly see in the pictures where they had obscured where the scratches were. Like the way they took the pictures was very clear to do it.
Yeah.
So there's a way to reject the car. So I'm going back and forth with them, and they were really kind of nasty. But eventually, I got them to take $2,000 off the price, so it was like 34,000 instead of 36,000. Instead of just taking the car back, because remember, this was a time where nobody was buying cars, so they were just fire selling them. So I'm sure they didn't want to take that back. But anyway, with Rivian and Chase, it's actually good news. After 6 months, I finally get a letter in the mail saying that I have my new Chase account. And now I'm like, okay, what's going on? Because I signed this contract 6 months ago. So I'm already 6 months into the lease. Do I have a huge amount due? What's going on? Well, I log in and there's a payment for the 6 months just posted to the account for the 6 months. Go back, make sure that it wasn't any of my money because they didn't even have my account or authorization to take it, but it wasn't. And it appears that they just zeroed out 6 months worth of payments. So a bank error in my favor after all of that. I just can't imagine a company selling you a car like this, letting you drive it for 6 months. There's no financing. And who knows if I hadn't been following up, because finally through all my monthly correspondence, they escalated it higher and higher. I'm assuming that's why it actually got fixed. I wonder if it would have just gone the whole course without anybody noticing.
Well, I mean, you show up and go to turn it in and they'll be like, what are you talking about? We don't have this on record and we don't have any payments on record. I mean, that would have been worse because there's no way that they take a car back after, what do you have, 2-3 year lease? And they're just like, oh, okay, we're going to eat this one. Like, they're going to be like, where's our whatever tens of thousands of dollars that you owe us for this lease? It would have been crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and I just put the money aside every month, so I had assumed I was going to have to pay it. Wasn't going to be surprised when I got that bill. My main concern was just making sure that no crazy bill backdated onto my credit or something like that, where they say, oh, you owe us thousands of dollars from April 1st or whatever. But yeah, bank error in my favor. I was shocked that they did that. it's been a little bit of time, and now I feel like it's right. I've been making payments on it now. I've just made my second payment, and that money that they paid towards the lease was good. So yeah, it was a good
See,
deal, but so
they eat
disorganized.
6 months of car payments that probably are more than my American Airlines ticket each one, and they just eat it. But I can't just get. They have my money, and they won't just print a freaking ticket for $600. Like just give me the ticket, man. Like this isn't hard. You have my money. Give me the ticket. I thought maybe it was like it was held on the gift cards, but it's been over a week, so it's been a week and a half. So that would have dropped off by now. So I don't know what the heck. I don't know. I'm just upset again. But
So you you
you
deal
bear,
with a big company and they don't do anything. You deal with a new company, a smaller company, and they still don't do anything.
yeah, yeah. You buried the lead on the Volvo, didn't? The prices shot back up, and you were able to sell that for a nice chunk of change too, right?
Yeah, I sold it a couple years later, so right before we traveled. So about two, I think I had it for a little over 2 years, and we sold it for 10,000 more than we bought it for, which is obviously car prices went crazy, and it was a combination of us getting a really good deal on it. By the way, really love that car, that XC90, man. It was
Yeah.
a great vehicle. I love my Rivian, amazing for people that are interested in it. It's great, much better than a Cybertruck, in my opinion. I still have my old Tesla Model S as well, but I do love the electric car revolution. I know I'm going to trigger some people out there who just hate everything electric
Just
vehicles, but
don't get it
they
wet,
work great
man.
for me.
Don't be in a flood zone. Then it starts on fire.
It can very, yeah, it doesn't really happen that often, but
This
yeah, great car
this whole
thing.
thing was just so you could show the Rivian driving in the dirt videos up on YouTube right now, right? How many
Just
did you
to,
put up?
just
Like,
hey, we got to have something to cover this up. Yeah, it's funny. We talked on the Vegas show about off-roading and around Vegas, and I had taken the Rivian to do that. And so I had a little bit of footage, but the onboard cameras, which actually record video, the hard drive, there was an error or something. So I had to fix it. So I went back out there and did it again. And then I briefly talked about it for about 30 seconds just so I could show the video that I had recorded the second time. And Mark gave me a hard time about it. Fun.
yeah. Now you get to use it again. See, there you go.
One of our partners on the show on 20 Minute Travel and MTM Travel is Melio, and they have an interesting offer. It's a business to business payment solution. And, we would talk about the offer, and this is an affiliate offer. We do receive a commission if you apply for this, but we thought it'd be interesting for you to kind of go over the service and why we think this offer is actually good for people and something they should consider jumping on.
Yeah, and this is available to new users of Melio, people that have never had an account before, and it's only available through select affiliate links. So it's not like you can just go to Melio and get this offer. It's much better than what you would get normally. So it's kind of unique. When we first started talking about it on 20 Minute Travel, it was a bit different offer, probably a better offer, or I should say easier offer to trigger because the spend required was lower. But yeah, Melio, let's just like overview. Melio is much like plastic. If you use that, where it's you make payments on you can use your credit card. They mail a check, or if they have ACH set up, they can ACH it into their account. You put it on your credit card. They charge the 2.9% fee, just like plastic, but it is for business to business. So it has to be your company sending money to another company. So I use it for, like the cottage is considered a rental home. When we have, the guy that cuts the grass up there is like $25 a week, which I wish I could get him to cut it down here. Then I wouldn't be out there slaving. I guess that's why I have a son too, so he can do it. But I can set it up in that account, charge it to my credit card because they don't take credit cards. They mail the check on. So that's what's great about this is it opens up spending to areas that you normally wouldn't. Like our water department doesn't take credit cards. So I can have them mail a check for a water department because I work from home. So things like that is really cool. And normally the 2.9% fee, unless you're working on a welcome offer or earning, above 3% or more in points value for that purchase, let's say like doing like a free night certificate spend or something like that, it's not really worth it. But with this sign up bonus offer, you have to spend $2,000 if you do their free account. So they have paid accounts that give you like perks and stuff that you'll get the $200 just for having it for 30 days subscription. But I wouldn't mess with that. I'd just do the free account, the base account. You make a $2,000 payment or payments up to $2,000 within the first 30 days, you get $200 back. So if you do right at $2,000, that's $60 in fees, but you're getting a $200 deposit into your bank account to offset that. So you're coming out a net $140 ahead, and you just got $2,000 in credit card spend that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise. I know Shawn will put a link in the description to sign up and everything, but it's really a great program.
This is an affiliate for us, but we're just talking about it because we actually think this is a good offer, low hanging fruit. I think Mark explained all of that. This isn't an ad for them. They didn't ask us to talk about it. We just thought it was worth kind of going in more detail. It does help support the show if you decide to do it. But again, we think you're coming out ahead with the spend. A lot of good stuff there. And I know, there's a lot of people out there who there's spending opportunities, right? Abound. There's a lot of stuff, but it can get complicated. And when you can get this low hanging fruit, something very simple to knock out some spend or to, juice up a welcome offer on a credit card, something like that. I'm always looking for those opportunities. So I think this is a good one for that.
Yeah, I should point out that you can't use it for financial products, so you can't make like a car payment if it's your business vehicle or anything like that. It's got to be like a physical business type of thing, or a person that did work on your house or something. You can mail it to them, or office, things like that. So, but yeah, it's a great option. I love it. Like these programs, even though there's a fee, I love that it's like set it and forget it. Like you can do the monthly payment where it automatically mails out to them. Or if you already have it set up, you just go in there. Let's say it's something that changes every month. You plug in the amount, hit go. They have it like 7 to 10 days later in their mailbox, and you don't have to write the check. You don't have to buy the stamp. You don't have to get the envelope. All that crap that is so 1990s. You don't have to mess with that. They take care of it all, and I think that's well worth it too.
So let's pivot to Hilton and why I'm so jealous of your Hilton Diamond status. You wrote you have it for 5 years, and you can explain that. Because I had it for years, and then I decided to upgrade to the Aspire card to keep it because I assumed I was actually going to lose it, and then that didn't happen. So here I am, the schmuck over here, paying to have my Diamond status, and you're still getting it for free. How did this happen?
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. I think it's just like a glitch in their system. Back in like late March, early April of 2020, when everything was, haywire and we didn't think we were going to ever travel again. My annual fee came due, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to cancel this because I can't use the resort credit, which is where all the money comes in, the value for this card, thinking there's no way we're going to travel in the next 6-8 months. And then I don't want to be stressed trying to use it. So cancel it. And then, of course, Amex and Hilton come out and say, oh, you can use your resort credit towards dining, which sucks because I would have just kind of rolled with it at that point. But anyway, figured I'll drop back down to gold with my Surpass after, a month or so. And then they started rolling over stats. They're like, oh, for COVID, we're going to roll over stats. Then in 2021, they're like, we're going to do it one more time. So I'm like, all right, 2022, it's going to come off. And it never came off. 2023 didn't come off. 2024 didn't come off. And I just got an email that's like, thank you for re-earning your status until March 31st of next year, which is when it normally ends for the year. So that doesn't make sense. So maybe that's like telling me that this is coming to an end, or they finally figured it out. But the weird thing is my wife closed her Aspire in 2021. She kept it for a while, but that went away. And I believe 2022, she lost it. So I don't know, maybe early COVID stuff just messed it all up.
Yeah, I think it was supposed to go away at the end of 22 or the beginning of 23. I think that's when I changed in order to get it back because I assumed I was going to lose it. So they had extended it a bunch of times. And, it's crazy how many different statuses that we did that with. We talked earlier. I said I was executive platinum. American Airlines and Hyatt gave me that before the pandemic. So that was like 3 or 4 years of that status. And then these other ones. And, I think there's a lot of people out there who probably like you that are still somehow rolling status from the pandemic without, falling through the cracks or whatever. I do know one other person who has continued to keep their diamond status despite not having the card or anything. I wonder how many people are out there in the same position as you. I wonder, again, if it would have been me had I not been stupid enough to go for it the right way.
The funny thing is I don't even care. Like, diamond status, if you're international, they get excited about diamonds. Maybe you get a suite there, but in the US, it gives you nothing. And I've always thought that was crazy that the credits you get, property credits in the US, were exactly the same for gold and diamond. They didn't differentiate it in any way, which makes no sense to me. Like, oh, okay, then why would I go above gold? I think gold's a great status, the best mid-tier status in hotels by far. And for whatever reason, they're like, yeah, let's just, slap a diamond on it and call it a bit better when you don't notice any difference between the two.
I think they've been sort of brilliant in their strategy with their status over the years. Like, I don't think a lot of
strategy.
Yeah. Hey, that part was getting cut out, and now there's nothing I can do.
Yeah,
But I mean,
exactly.
they've been giving it away with credit cards forever, right? Back in the day, it was gold, and gold got you stuff, and then eventually now you can get the diamond with the credit card, with the Aspire card, and so they have really made this their brand where you can get their status in the U.S. with a credit card. I don't think it's nearly as accessible outside the US, which is, to your point, why you get treated better because a diamond person is more rare. Where here, a lot of people have that. But just the fact that you're getting the free breakfast, they're giving all of that away with a credit card. They've really, other places have followed. Marriott, you can get platinum status, I guess, with a credit card. But I think the low hanging fruit of Hilton giving this stuff away has been really good, and people do enjoy it. And I do, we had a lot of debate a few years ago about the credit situation with breakfast and stuff in the US. That seems to have been a big success for them as well. And, so they're basically have this credit card. We'll give you a little bit of credit when you stay here, some other small perks. And I think people are buying into it, even if, it doesn't compare to like Hyatt Globalist or anything.
Yeah, I remember how many people hated me that I said I liked it. I wonder if anybody's coming to my side over the last couple years because I don't normally eat breakfast. So that perk, like the last 2 times I stayed at a Hyatt, I didn't get up and go down for breakfast. So what value did I get on that? Where I definitely will have something at the bar, or get some room service, or get something from the market, those type of things where you grab and go, you can use it. So it's more flexible. Yeah. Do you get less value if you go to breakfast every morning? Yes, you will get less value. But if you're not a breakfast every day type of person, I think the flexibility adds something. But that's what's cool about them leaving it internationally, that you still get the breakfast. And that's likely, like you said, there's not as many out there. So they get excited for it. But yeah, you get a little bit more there. They have lounges that you can actually access in Europe and Asia and stuff. So everything's just a bit better. They cater to you a bit more and stuff. I remember checking out of a hotel in Brussels because we were just like, this isn't all that fun. We don't really like Brussels. I want to go back to Amsterdam a day early. So we left a day early, checked out at 5 p.m. and they were so like concerned that I didn't like my stay. And I'm like, no, the hotel's been great. You guys have been great. We just want to go back. Brussels is kind of dead. So we're going to go back to Amsterdam. I'm like, oh, we'll get you all your points back for tonight. And they credited me everything, which didn't make any sense because it was 5 p.m. I was like, okay, if you want to, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I think, you're not alone. Hilton, when I talked to executives last year, they said that people do like the credits. I mean, that it's certainly a split, and there are some people who like the breakfast better, or feel because they're not getting a full free breakfast that the credit comes up short. But they said that's more the exception to the rule. And then internationally, they said they probably never will, because there's just a lot of cultures where breakfast is more important. For example, Japanese culture, you're never going, that's an example that they gave. You're never going to go with a credit there because the breakfast is so part of the experience and is expected. So it's really an interesting sort of thing. But I have really grown to love it. When we just did our trip up to Spokane and we did Silverwood and stuff, I'm not a huge breakfast everyday person. I feel like sometimes with Hyatt, I'm forcing myself to eat breakfast. And then when I'm at Hyatt places and stuff, I'm often just skipping it, which that's included. But my point being that I'm not going out of my way to eat breakfast every day. And I just got a Starbucks coffee, and that was what I wanted. I didn't want to eat, and I just wanted Starbucks, and I was able to go to the grab and go. And, and my friend wanted to eat breakfast. And then another night we just had drinks in the bar to use the credit that night. So yeah, I do. I think I've come around a lot to this, to being like, I really prefer having the credit. Even if I wanted breakfast, it comes up a little short for like a full meal, I'm okay with that because, I'm coming out ahead other times.
Yeah. And if you're traveling solo, like we do often, it's really not an issue. And that's like the big problem was, oh, I'm a road warrior and I don't get my breakfast now. And that eats into the money that I can spend for dinner from my company and everything, like my per diem. But if you're traveling solo and you put two people on, they almost always give you the two-person credit. There's no way you can't eat breakfast for $30 to $50 at these places. So I think that's, bull crap. Maybe people just need whenever something's taken away, people like to act like the world's ending, like losing the Caesars Diamond match. They're like, well, I'm canceling my trip to Vegas. I'm like, over like $100 dinner and $20 to $50 for 2 nights, in resort credit. Like, you're canceling over that. Like, why were you even going, really? It just, everybody gets mad and they're like, I'm going to show them. And it's like, they don't care.
So I found out this week that apparently there are people locked in at Founderscard at $99. So
nice.
I was so jealous of that. Yeah. In fact, it's I guess I could shout out Chris Hutchins, the host of All the Hacks. super long time travel hacker, but he threw that out there that he's locked in at $99, and I was so jealous because I'm locked in at a good rate, but not $99 a year. Plus, he has the free, I think, spousal membership, so he's double dipping on that, which I have as well. That is the cool thing about the spousal membership. Somebody was saying that, and I have to research this because I got the spousal membership from having referrals years ago, which they changed their whole referral program. But my wife is a free spouse on mine. So we actually both get diamond status. So we double up on the celebration dinners and all of that sort of stuff. But somebody said that anybody can get a free spousal membership now. So that's something to look into if you are looking down the Founderscard route. I think $295 is the cheapest I've seen recently. Although if you try to just sign up, it's more. Feel free to do like a free gift membership and then they'll email you specials. Feel free to reach out to them directly and negotiate with them. They are not a huge company. You can talk to somebody and say, if you now know, I don't think they're giving anybody the $99. I think that was a very specific thing, but I just know for a fact you can negotiate with them if you're interested in that, and it's so important to you to get that diamond status.
Yeah, I think I got in on the $99 one a couple years ago when it was like, and this might not be like the long term thing because I think mine went back up or whatever. Or maybe I just canceled it anyway because I was like, I don't really use anything here besides Caesars, and I was earning Caesars at the time. I don't remember, but I know it was like written. I think Danny wrote about it on Miles Memory. So it didn't last very long because they were freaking out about it. It was supposed to be only like CEOs get it, but it kind of went wide and far for a couple hours. So I don't know if that locked you in for lifetime or what. Maybe I'm an idiot now. If it did, I'm kind of shooting myself in the foot a little bit. But yeah, it's just tough when you don't know exactly what you're going to get each year. Like some years they'll have status matches to American Airlines and stuff, and then other years they won't have anything. And they used to have Stripe swipes. Do they still give you the 20K in Stripe payments every year now, or is that gone too?
I believe that's still there. That's a one time, and they have a lot of interesting perks. This is a company that Mark and I have dealt with behind the scenes. Very interesting, and they never wanted us to talk about the Caesars Diamond status because they didn't want that to be the one selling point
Which
of
who
their
cares?
thing. So they always got mad at us for that and various other things. But I think it's super nice people, like they care a lot about their product, and even in our back and forth, they just didn't like us saying you should get this just for Caesars Diamond status, and they want to make sure that there are founders and things like that. So they do have some membership criteria that we really don't know about as far as like what exactly who gets in and who doesn't get in. I think a lot of people do, but yeah, I remember the $99 during COVID. I think you're right that went up. I don't know what deal he got, but I just got a little jealous of that. But also just don't get Founders Card now. You have to wait till February because their published benefit is only through the end of January, which you've already have the status now. You're already going to have it through the end of January. So we really don't know for 25 if you'll get it or not. And so I would definitely not join for that until we get an announcement on the future of that perk with Founders Card, unless you, of course, you find these other deals. And there are deals. There's discounts on like Samsung, Apple, all kinds of stuff that I've used a little bit here and there, the Stripe payments. I've definitely found value, but you got to dig, and yeah, it's for the right people, for CEOs, Mark, for CEOs like us.
Yeah, I think there's like a MailChimp thing too, if you have like mass marketing emails at times. So there are other things that come and go. It's just, it's not fully known what you're going to get. Caesars was kind of like that thing that every year, hey, at least you're going to get $100 to $200 back from this perk. So until we know for sure if that's a thing. But if you let's say you have a Vegas trip happening in the next couple months and you say, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to maximize it in that short trip time frame and just hope for the best next year. Maybe that makes sense too. But yeah, if you already have the stats, just wait till March and wait for it all to figure out, because I think it took till March this year for them to finally nail that down.
Speaking of Vegas trips, Mark has a Vegas trip soon, and we're going to go all around Vegas getting the best pizza. I know this isn't the Vegas show, but tease of that, because I think that's going to be crazy fun as we're trying to narrow it down, and we're going to somehow, what's our limit on the number of pizza places we're going to try in the same day? It's getting out of control.
I think in our chat, we have like 12 or 13 listed right now. And I don't know, we might just have to skip the main corridor strip area because of the race and kind of do out. What the hell am I trying to say? Trying to do outskirts. There we go. I got it. You can leave that in too, Shawn, because I messed up your mess up earlier. So, but yeah, maybe just hit that, like do the loop around the strip. I don't know, because I'm really curious how bad it's going to be just trying to get to the hotel, to the airport. I might actually have to leave for the airport like 2.5, 3 hours before my trip, not knowing if, is going to be Carmageddon going through there or what.
Fun times ahead in Vegas and on the show. Let us know in the comments what you guys think about anything we talked about. Have you ever had a lease experience like mine where 6 months or just anything like that, where just the bank never found out you bought the car? Mark's AA experiences that, I mean, I have so many AA experiences like that. It's not even special at this point. No, Spirit going into bankruptcy, is that going to be a huge loss? I think it will be. I mean, I think prices are going to go up. This is an airline everybody likes to make fun of, but it's almost cultural at this point. And if we do lose Spirit, I think it'll be a huge loss. But let's discuss all of the stuff we discussed in the comments. Mark, where can people find you when they're not watching or listening to this fine podcast?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Detroit Mark. You can find my articles at travelonpoints.com, or you can join the Facebook group over there if you have any questions. How about you, Shawn?
At Miles to Memories on social media. Check Mark and I out on the 20-minute travel news show. That's going to be all of your news for miles, points, travel, quick hits on the stories on this same channel every single week. And MTM Vegas, our twice weekly Vegas news show. Lots of laughs, lots of good stuff going on there. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Talk to you next time.
Have a good week, everybody. Buzzballs for everybody.
Okay. Buzzballs for nobody.
Yeah, buzzballs for nobody.
All right, here we go.
The end of buzzballs.
So, Mark, Spirit is going bankrupt.
The end of buzzballs. No more buzzballs.
That was a terrible intro.